Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found. And, of course, taped live at the Twitch at twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. Want to give a big shout out to everybody who joined me for Christmas Steve when I watched Avengers of Justice Farce Wars as part of my Survivor Series punishment. It was a horrific movie. I do not recommend it, but thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me on Christmas Steve. It was an experience. The holidays, as fun as they were on Saturday, the bloom came off a bit because we learned of the very sad passing of Brodie Lee. So that's what we're going to be talking about a lot today on the show. Larson, why don't you run down the timeline here?
Sure. So it was, as you mentioned, Saturday evening. I was just finishing up dinner when you texted me about it. And the first I saw of it was AEW's announcement about the passing of Jon Huber, I believe, known to us wrestling fans as Brodie Lee. Prior to that, of course, Luke Harper, WB. This is what they said, quote, "The All Elite Wrestling family is heartbroken and industry filled with good people. Jon was exceptionally respected and beloved in every way, a fierce and captivating talent, thoughtful mentor, and simply a very kind soul that starkly contradicted his persona as Mr. Brodie Lee. Jon's love for his wife, Amanda, and children, Brodie and Nolan, was evident to all of us who were fortunate to spend time with him. We send our love and support to his beautiful family today and always. Jon's popularity among his peers and influence on the wrestling world was worldwide and transcended AEW, so this loss will be felt by many for a long time." Concludes, "We were privileged, AEW, to call Jon a brother, a friend, and one of our own." Brodie Lee, Jon's wife, Amanda, posted to Instagram, mentioned that he passed following a hard-fought battle with a non-COVID related lung issue.
Yeah.
So he was at the Mayo Clinic, I believe, in Jacksonville. And she just expressed a lot of support, or a lot of thanks for the support of AEW, mentioning Cody, Brandy, Matt and Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega, Tony Khan. So it's absolutely heartbreaking news. 41 years old, doing the best work of his career. And you read all the tributes from pretty much such a wide swath of the wrestling world. WB, AEW, indies, all over the place. Brodie had been wrestling for a long time and seemingly wrestled at some point everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable that not just the number of people who knew him and seemingly knew him well, but that pretty much unanimously everybody said he was an awesome guy.
Yeah.
A devoted family man, loved his wife, loved his kids, loved his family. Was quick with a joke. Was quick to be both critical and supportive of one's work, and was always there to help people along. Bray wrote a really touching tribute. So did Braun, Eric Rowan. Big E, like several times a day, would take to Twitter to tell these incredible stories about what a good dude Brodie Lee was. He seemed like he loved the business. He loved his family. He was there to help make pro wrestling better, it seemed like. I think it was an Evil Uno's tribute to the situation where he talks about how the Dark Order was kind of floundering at the time, and Brodie didn't have to join the Dark Order, but he wanted to do it to help him, to help the Dark Order, because he apparently he had known Evil Uno for a good many years. And a lot of wrestlers would say, hey, after the match, he would be waiting for me at Gorilla backstage to give notes, to give support.
Yeah,
say that was great.
John Silver talked about how Brodie purchased his ring gear and his robe to wear out there. Preston Vance 10 said that Brodie gave him one of his ring coats and had it hemmed so it would fit him, because Brodie was a really huge guy. Yeah, I watched the Being the Elite this morning. You mentioned later on in the notes here, because they did a tribute episode. Where, primarily members of the Dark Order, the guys he was closest with, and worked with heavily, watching that. I teared up several times during that, watching the outtakes, them cracking. You could always see it on screen, how much fun they were having. That was, sort of the thing that broke, Mr. Brodie Lee's character for us, and I think for a lot of people, was watching their interaction on Being the Elite. It's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And to see, when John Silver and Alex Reynolds, they had separate, videos where they would talk about him and their experiences with him. To see those guys, especially Silver, who has really come alive as like the breakout guy for obvious reasons, to hear him talk about his experiences with Brodie, how he was like it says in so many other places, he was obviously not the Mr. Brodie Lee character in person. He was completely like the opposite of that because the Mr. Brodie Lee character was essentially a take on Vince McMahon in several ways. And you see Silver, who's just, that guy has got immense charisma and a real obvious joy for what he does. Talk about, Brodie Lee and Silver, and Reynolds talking about him as well. And he just seems so downtrodden. And it's obvious why. I mean, you could see the relationship with these guys. You could just see it, on camera and being the Elite especially. It's really remarkable. And like you said, so many people, there have been times when people have died and the wrestling world comes out and says, hey, they say nice things about him. And sometimes it's universal. With this, there's like so many extra steps beyond, like you mentioned, Big E, like continually has been tweeting about him throughout the last couple days. So many moments that people have been sharing, and so many people coming out to say such great things and then reiterating over and over again is really driving the point home of just how much this guy was loved. And what a massive loss his death is going to be. I mean, I mentioned earlier, like several people telling stories of he'd be waiting backstage for him to say, that was awesome, good job, or hey, here's some stuff you should work on. He seemed to accept the role as leader in the locker room. Yeah. And that's another thing. People all said it was always a pleasure to share the locker room with him. He always brought a laugh to the proceedings. He was always personable, loved talking about his family. And it just seems like that's a massive void that's going to be left now in the AEW locker room of someone back there that's seemingly universally respected. Someone who's up to the task of mentoring younger wrestlers. And it's just an enormous loss. This was such a great. So Tony Khan hasn't tweeted a ton since it. He had his own statement. He retweeted the AEW statement, the official thing. He retweeted, he responded. The only other thing he's done is responded to John Silver with his tweet about Brodie buying him his ring gear. And he responded with a text, a screenshot of a text message thread when Tony Khan said, hey, he basically reaches out to Brodie and says, I think I see a Stevie Richards Raven relationship for you guys. What do you think about that? And Brodie just said, I love it. And it was such a great little insight. And we've seen this a little bit before in AEW, like with Cody, responding to Chuck and Trent about their entrance video, about how it just seems so like collaborative there and freewheeling. And I mean, this guy, Tony Khan, is like, his family is $1 billion family. He's running this wrestling promotion, but he's like coming up with ideas for essentially henchmen of Brodie Lee's because he sees something in everybody. And it was just a great, this was targeted towards John Silver to say, hey, and he said he loved it. He loved you to John Silver about Brodie Lee. But it's also a great little insight about, and I have no reason to think that Tony Khan was sending this screenshot out there for any other reason than just to, tell John Silver, this man loved you. But it's such a great little insight into like how things go there, like the leader of the company. It seems like a family run business. It's what it feels like. It feels like that's the goal there. Totally. That
everybody's invested and everybody has an opportunity to share their ideas. And it's it just feels very collaborative and very welcoming,
Yeah. Now this was a kind of interesting report here from Fightful about, the nature of maybe what people knew, because obviously to the wrestling community, this came as a pretty big shock.
Yeah.
Fightful is reporting that many, and by the way, go check out FightfulSelect.com. They're absolutely terrific. They're reporting that many AEW talents were informed of Brodie Lee's illness and the severity long ago, as far back as early November. They were asked to respect the privacy of the family as Brodie Lee battled the illness and did so until his passing. One AEW wrestler noted that they wanted to dispel the idea that anything scandalous happened beyond them losing a great friend and revered personality. And Fightful then said they're not going to report anything unless there's something official that comes out from the family or from AEW. So good on Fightful Select for doing good work there.
Yes.
I mean, that's that. Above all, this is shattering to a family. I watched a couple of his matches over the past couple days, just to sort of refresh myself going into today. And I caught a clip off of Twitter. And I forgot who retweeted or whatever, or who posted it. But I believe it was one of those behind the scenes WWE things, and it might have been part of the Worlds Collide. I forget, but it was just him being himself, and talking about, wanting to be the type of father to his sons, the way his dad was to him. And I don't know, like, his background with his father. I didn't do any research on that. If he lost his father, if he had lost his father already. But he teared up. He started crying while he was talking about, which made me think that maybe he has already passed. His father, he was a dead ringer for his dad too. Like, they showed a picture, like a side by side, a dead ringer for his dad. Like, I for a second I thought, oh, was that when he had his first son? It looks like it was in the 70s. And I know his son's not that old. He's like 8 or 9 years old. But now I realized, like, oh my God, no, that's his dad. And so the family aspect of things, and even I went and I watched the Worlds Collide match with Dijak. And by the way, I freaking miss Dijak. I miss him so hard. Like, especially after watching that, I'm like, God damn, they've so dropped the ball with him. But he comes out and it was his return match. And the writing was kind of on the wall, I think, by the time that Worlds Collide match had happened. It's like, it was obvious that WWE wasn't doing nothing with him.
Yeah, he was off TV for a long time before that.
Yeah. And so the crowd starts chanting "Welcome back," and he was playing the babyface in that role. And he comes out and there's his wife and his 2 kids, and he gives them all kisses. Kayfabe be damned. That was one of the cool things about those World Collides. That I think it was like the second tournament, not the pay-per-view, but the second tournament they did. I think it was 2. That, like, all those they were all like, it was a tournament. I think it was a tournament style thing. And but all those matches were all just little self-contained stories. And it was obvious that him and Dijak just got together as sort of a good old-fashioned face versus heel match. It was a lot of fun. I remember
he put up a thing on Twitter, Brodie did, before the match, and saying how important this match was to him.
He called it his WrestleMania moment. Yeah. Which is such a great attitude to have. And it's funny because he's totally... You never know how it's going to go down when somebody goes from the structure of WWE, where everybody is given their role essentially, and then and I'm not going to get into criticizing WWE for their treatment of Luke Harper. It's not the time or place for that. But it is interesting to see when a guy goes from that structure where you're given a role, and then to see him flourish the way he did when he was given the freedom to establish his own role. It doesn't work for everybody. It hasn't worked for everybody in AEW when you're coming from WWE. Yeah. But it clearly, after a brief period of figuring it out, it clearly worked so well for him. And that's, like, from strictly a fan standpoint, and obviously the most devastating aspect of this is the family by far. But as fans, to not get to see him flourish even more, and just understanding backstage how he was touching, the lives of those other wrestlers is an absolute tragedy.
It is
just
an
absolute tragedy.
It really is
for wrestling, for the
really
love
is,
of wrestling.
Here's someone who was there, who loved wrestling, who loved the business, wanted to see it grow, wanted to see talents around him grow. Yeah. And the warmth, the humor he brought, it's just a massive loss, massive loss. Zondo in here mentions that Mustafa Ali was talking about Brodie saving him for a potential broken neck. Remember at the one of the Andre Battle Royals where they did a spot where you suplex him out of the ring, he got like
that's right. Yeah. It is. It's I believe his oldest is 8 or 9. I know in one of the Being the Elites, he'd mentioned that he was 8 years old. Yeah. And that's that from what I understand, is a tough age to lose a parent. I mean, and not a lot of people know this maybe, but my brother-in-law passed away when he was like 34, and it was the reason why I moved back here to Sacramento from LA, because, my sister had a 4-year-old niece, and she had her go to counseling. And it's rough because my niece doesn't have very many memories of her dad, and he has a very few number of like videotapes. If I pass like Alabama, she'll have oodles of videos of me acting a damn fool on the internet, and home movies and stuff, because I'm obsessive with videotaping stuff. But when you're 4, there isn't much of a memory, and so it's processing it isn't as tough. When you're 8 or 9, the older you get, the exponentially more difficult it becomes.
Yeah.
And so, my heart really does go out to that family.
Yeah, same here.
And I know there are many ways you can help support them. I know CM Punk has said that all the shirts on his Pro Wrestling Tees shop that are going to be sold this month or over the next month.
Mick Foley said the same thing.
Mick Foley said the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a number of ways you can help support. It's all over Twitter.
You go to his Pro Wrestling Tee shop or buy stuff from AEW. I believe all the proceeds from that is going to his family as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a tough couple days, just being around my own family, and it's like, I didn't know Brodie Lee. I didn't know the guy, but it's like, you become a fan of these people as people, and for the entertainment value they give you. And it becomes it's like, man, God. And then you look at your family, and it's hard to digest this. And I understand we're saying this within the context of being in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, where just in this country alone, over 350,000 people have lost their lives. Those are all people with their own stories and their own tragedies involved. But given that he entered our lives the way he did, it adds some context to a life lost, and it's a really sad one.
It really is. It really is. It really is.
There was some wrestling over the weekend that we didn't cover because we were busy celebrating Christmas with our families.
Yes, the Christmas, yes.
So we'll talk about.
It was a really fun show. It was actually a really good show.
It bums me. I didn't actually watch it.
Oh, you didn't?
I was busy. I was like, you know what? I saw clips on Twitter. I saw the amazing celebration. I saw a lot of the clips from the cell match. That was the cage match. That was great.
Yeah. No, I was watching this morning. It was a lot of fun.
I might still go back.
No, I highly recommend it. The cage match was awesome. I mean, Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens have some excellent chemistry.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the finish because Kevin Owens seemed like he's on the precipice of winning. Jay handcuffed him to the cage, and the location of where he was handcuffed to the cage in relation to the door, because he was trying to leave through the door, was great because he could stick his leg out the door, but he was like 1.5 feet, 2 feet short of actually foot making contact with the floor. So he had this great visual of Kevin Owens stretching his body out while being handcuffed to the cage, just trying to get a tiptoe on the floor, while Roman just casually strolls out. He's on the last step. He's like, come on, try to get out. Talking crap. And just casually with the largest smirk on his face. Yeah. So really fun match. This will definitely lead, I hope, to another bout at the Rumble.
I did see this. Muted Mayday mentions this. You'll see the video of E talking about Sammy's cheeks and building construction and high rises on his cheeks.
Brilliant.
That was great stuff. So let me ask you this. Now that you've explained it to me, I saw the video, a little bit of video that I saw him handcuffed, him yelling at Roman, "You couldn't beat me one-on-one because you're a bitch." Yeah. Is this going to be the Rumble match, you think?
I would think so.
You would think so.
I want to see it.
Are they in? I mean, Roman's got to go over clean at some point. I mean, is this turning into he's just the guy that's cheating his way out of everything situation? He did it with Drew. He's doing it now with Kevin Owens multiple times.
Well, I mean, the whole idea of the cage match was to try to prevent Jey Uso from getting involved. Yeah. So the other, I mean, what's the other option? It's Jey and a Shark Tank or something, you know?
Well, I'm just kind of curious as to where you think this direction.
Well, there's two directions, two logical directions. I only think one of them will happen. It's probably another match either at the Rumble or sometime between now and the Rumble on SmackDown. Or Roman says, well, I'm done with you, Kevin Owens. I've beat you twice. And then the real story should be Kevin Owens wins the Rumble and faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Probably not going to happen. But the heat this feud has, the chemistry these two guys have in the ring, it's top-notch stuff. I would
love if you and I have both. There's a couple of elements at play here. Number one, there was the story a month ago or so, a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, I think from Fightful, that Roman's title run was not supposed to be an elongated one. It was not supposed to be as long as it has been, which, puts it in my head. Maybe he could drop this somehow and then come back around to it. He's booked as such a dominant guy in his presence. If they're looking to make Kevin Owens into that guy, then why don't they have him lose in a similar fashion at the Rumble with Jay's interference, put himself in the Rumble, and then win the whole damn thing? Mm-hmm. Comes out. I mean, didn't they did that with like Becky, I think, or something? Relatively recently.
Yeah, Becky lost to Asuka at the beginning of the Rumble.
Thank you. That's
came
right.
Back out to win it after Lana
got
laid out.
Yeah,
that would make a ton of sense because, that report has always kind of been in the back of my mind a little bit, and also WWE has a continual problem building new stars apart from Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch. Like they haven't had any crossover stars per se. Mm-hmm. You have Kevin Owens. You have Jay get involved in the match instead of helping Roman, ends up kind of costing him the match. KO gets the win. He gets that title. Sure, have Roman win the Rumble. Have them have a match at Mania. You can have Roman win clean there. But then have this be a feud that they can come back to. Yeah. Because the chemistry between these two guys is off the charts.
It really is. That there is, and I do think that, man, you gotta run with Owens. Look, man, they, like you just said, they gotta create some new stars. And even, when we were talking up Kevin Owens so much, you could see it in the comments in that particular video, probably the last SmackDown video we did, where there are so many non-believers in Kevin Owens because of how he's been booked over the past 18 to 24 months. Like he's always there, but doesn't quite get there. Mm-hmm. And if you want to make a new star out of a guy who's been around a little while, and he's always almost there, and he's got this sort of a bit of a fresh coat of paint because of his new attitude, his baby face and his justification for it. Mm-hmm. It was great. Somebody asked him on Twitter, why is it nobody comes to your aid? And he says, well, that's because of the years and years that I was a bad guy, basically. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
It's the consequences. And that's a great word to use, consequences. There should be consequences in storytelling. And too often they're dropped. Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's, you got to start, you got to build stars.
I know.
And that's how you do it. You have him, and it's not just, he's always on the precipice against Roman Reigns. I think he's got to beat him or something,
I know.
Even if it's at Mania or if it's at, I don't know how you do it, but I feel like Kevin Owens, he can be that guy.
Yeah, he can.
Then Roman can go on a rampage of sorts. Mm-hmm. Power up even more, and then maybe beat Owens at SummerSlam or something like that. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do
like
it.
that. Yeah, I don't know.
You got Goldberg
right
out
now,
there too.
I feel like there's two guys on the SmackDown roster right now. Actually, three. There's three on the SmackDown roster that could do it if the story's there for Kevin Owens to do it right now. Will they follow through on it? Given WWE's history, I'm skeptical. But between you still have 4 months and change between now and Mania. You can still tell a story to build up somebody being Roman Reigns, whether it's Kevin Owens, whether it's Daniel Bryan. He declared for the Rumble on SmackDown after beating Jey Uso. Another really fun match. And then you got Big E still. Now he's a new Intercontinental Champion. Who knows how long that reign's going to last? Who knows if this is just kind of step one in a long-term singles run and a singles push that'll culminate, somewhere down the line becoming either WWE or Universal Champion. Who knows? But there's three guys on SmackDown now where you can say, all right, we're going to build you up to be the guy who beats Roman. And with the right story, it could be totally believable and really effective. Really effective.
I feel like at this point I will give you my opinion of what it probably is. Kevin Owens is a stopgap between Roman and Goldberg.
Absolutely.
That's what I think it is. I hope it's not, and maybe it's not, but I get the feeling that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing. And I think that's it. I think that...
Oh, totally agreed. Totally agreed.
I think that nobody else... I think that there are probably those names that you're talking about. I think Daniel Bryan could be if he literally didn't just say, and he has said several times now, he's done being a full-time guy. I know. Well, Brock
he says this is his last year of being a full-time guy.
I know Brock was a part-time champion with mixed results.
But I also feel like Daniel Bryan is the type who, if he was a part-timer, he wouldn't take the spot. This is my supposition. He wouldn't take the spot of a full-time wrestler in such a high-profile title thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Big E is an experiment right now. And the sad thing for him is that it doesn't matter how charismatic he is, because he's all the charismatic. It's if his creative isn't good.
I know, absolutely.
It's not going to pay off to the way they want it to pay off to see him as the guy. But I think that he's penciled in for sure. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, 100%. Definitely.
I think a lot of people. I think I think that he's probably penciled in. Daniel Bryan's a possibility. I just think that chances are everything is a stopgap between him and The Rock. And The Rock is a stopgap between whoever's gonna eventually take it off Roman, and it's gonna be like 2 years.
I know. It'll be a year from now. Yeah.
Brock might be a stopgap too for that as well. So yeah, I don't know. It'd be awesome as if everybody was a stopgap between Roman and Jey Uso. How great would that be?
That'd be pretty great. And I know it's WWE's approach to doing things, but it's still a bummer where you have a really good story there in your hands, this Roman Kevin Owens thing that could have a really good payoff at WrestleMania if Owens were to say lose his rematch against Roman earlier in the show, all beat up, gets in the Rumble, wins the Rumble, challenges like the next day or the next SmackDown and says, Roman, I'm coming for you. You have 3 more months to build up, or 2.5 more months to build up a really good story to have it pay off in a really good way that people would be invested in, and actually, if done right, would generate a lot of buzz about the show. Instead, they fall back on the same old idea. Well, like Goldberg, he was a draw 20 some years ago. Let's bring him back for a 2-minute match against Roman, and that'll get people talking. It's just the same thing over and over again. It's frustrating.
It's the easy, lazy way to go, and it's crazy because, all you need is a couple of good story ideas for Kevin Owens, and you've made a brand new star, which you can count on. You can count on this guy to be a Legends Night guy 25 years from now.
I know. They don't think 25 years from now. They think till next week, and that's about as far as they think.
Yeah, there's no Raw preview today, by the way, people. Guess why?
They haven't read it yet.
Probably still being written
it yet. Yeah. So, anyways, really fun cage match between Roman and Kevin Owens. Roman walks out of the wing. Why can't I talk today? Ring for the win.
Doing fine. You're doing. It's because you're so focused on your huge fantasy football victories.
Well, the victories haven't happened yet, Steve. Stop trying to jinx the whole thing.
I am trying to jinx you.
You are. I know you are.
Yeah, man. Of course. You beat me. What am I supposed to do?
Be happy for me. After that, we had a triple threat elimination tag team title match. Asuka and Charlotte taking on Bayley and Carmella versus Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Really fun match. There was some promo stuff in advance of this. Charlotte, before the match starts, talked about how Christmas has come early. They're back on SmackDown. They're entered by Bayley. She says, it's really impressive, because Charlotte was also saying about how it's pretty impressive they're tag champs. Bayley says it was really impressive that while 2020 was a downer for a lot of people, it wasn't for her. She's the longest reigning SmackDown women's champ. She's interrupted by Sasha. She says, well, what's really impressive is that I'm champ now. Bianca comes out, talks about how she's the EST. That makes her impressive, and that Bayley has never seen anything like her. And then Carmella comes out trying to say why she's impressive. Anyways, really fun match. First elimination. Sasha pins Bayley after a splash following a spine buster from Bianca.
Ooh.
And once it got down to Asuka and Charlotte versus Sasha and Bianca, this match was bonkers. It was a lot of fun.
I love that Bayley is just eating all these pins, and it's triggering so many people because she's totally winning the Royal Rumble. She's totally winning that shit. That's totally happening. Could you imagine her versus Sasha at WrestleMania? Oh my God. Oh wow.
Give them a half hour minimum.
Yeah,
minimum.
Totally.
Minimum.
Absolutely.
So yeah, once it was like a 2-on-2 tag match, especially, it was good beforehand, but it was a whole other level after that. In the end, Charlotte pins Bianca after a code breaker natural selection combo from her and Asuka. Really fun match. After that, Street Profits are backstage doing a promo. They hear Sammy berating some production person. He wants to know who, she's like worked from the social media department, I think. He wants to know who made this bout tonight a lumberjack match. Sammy turns towards Street Profits. He says, I have no time for your nonsense. Ford says, hey, we're about to give you a gift. And Sammy's like, oh, I'm sorry for going off on you. And then Dawkins opens the box. There's a shirt inside that says, I was Intercontinental Champion. And Sammy yells at them saying, you're not funny.
That's pretty damn good.
It was good. After that, Daniel Bryan versus Jey Uso. While Daniel Bryan's making his way down to the ring, Jey lays him out from behind, has the upper hand for a good portion of this match. Daniel Bryan starts going after Jey's leg. At one point, Jey hits a splash, slow to make the cover because he landed on his knee. In the end, Daniel Bryan ducks a super kick, hits a knee plus to get the W. After that, his interview, talk about how there's one thing he's never done in his career, win the Royal Rumble. He's entering the 2021 Rumble. Sammy walks up to him. It's like, hey, you've had it out for me because you didn't think I was a good Intercontinental Champion. And now I have to defend it tonight. I think you stooged to management to make this match happen.
Stooged.
He says, but you know what? Karma's going to get you because you're going to be in the Rumble and you're going to lose.
That'll be a fun story. I know, dude. I feel like they've got some really great ingredients for some like percolating storylines here, because they're all kind of like, Daniel Bryan has this kind of thing with Jey Uso. Who knows if they're going to revisit it, but they totally could to get him into the Roman thing. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you got Sami Zayn, who's going to be upset about losing his Intercontinental Champion. There's a lot of great like stories that if they're clever, they could really have some of these crisscross in an interesting way.
I know. And that brings us to our main event. Big E versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title, a lumberjack match. The lumberjacks were not afraid to get involved physically, especially when Big E was tossed to the floor several times. They were just beating the heck out of him.
Oh no!
And at one point, they were beating him up, and Sammy hits a tope on Big E. Go to commercial, come back. E kind of starts a comeback with some belly to bellies. Sammy blocks a third, looks for a haluva kick. Big E counters with an Uranagi, gets a 2. He goes for a big ending. Sammy escapes that, rolls out of the ring, tries to hop over the barricade. All the face lumberjacks put him back in the ring. Sammy pokes Big E in the eye, rolls him up, gets a 2. So they're brawling on the top rope. Sammy hits the sunset flip powerbomb. That gets him a 2 count. Goes for another haluva kick. E dodges that one. Spears Sammy out of the ring off the apron. And heels toss Big E back in the ring. And the faces are trying to do the same with Sammy. Sammy ducks a shot from someone, I don't remember who it was. I think it's Drew Gulak that gets clocked. Or Cesaro gets clocked, I think. Anyways, a brawl breaks out between the faces and the heels ringside. Amidst that chaos, Sammy tries to take his leave up the apron, and then Apollo Crews sees him, sprints up the ramp, tackles him,
nice,
and he's calling some other people to come help him. So it's him, the Street Profits, Otis, and Gable. They pick him up, carry him back to the ring, and toss him in. Big E hits a belly-to-belly, a splash, and big ending for the win. All the face lumberjacks come in, hoist Big E on their shoulders, confetti raining down as the show goes off the air.
Remember Daniel Bryan, after he came back like a month later, he was in the Greatest Royal Rumble. I think wasn't he like the Iron Man in that match?
Yeah, he was in it for like 50-something minutes.
He was in it for like a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah, and his chest was all hamburgered up because of Roderick Strong.
His entire body looked all hamburgered up. So
because him and Roderick Strong would just trade chops for half the match.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Anyways, a really fun SmackDown. I like that they focused on in-ring stuff for the most part, and it was in-ring action that was advancing storylines. Mm-hmm. They didn't rely too much on talking bits. It was a really fun show. All the matches were really good. A lot of fun.
That's cool. Maybe I'll actually check it out.
You should. You definitely should. Let's mention before you.
How did it do in the ratings, Larson?
It did very well, probably because they had a great lead-in, at least on the East Coast. Of course, New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings played on Christmas Day prior to SmackDown, again on the East Coast. I believe that game did really well in the ratings, and partially because of that, the Christmas edition of SmackDown posted a first hour rating of 4.097. That dropped to about 2.5 million for the second hour. Average 3.35 million viewers. As far as the all-important, it's the only number that really matters, 18 to 49 demo, first hour got a 1.1. That's really good.
That's
Second
awesome.
hour,
That's great.
a 0.8.
All right.
So strong ratings numbers. Even if you take, you assume the first hour, you can credit a lot of that maybe to the lead-in.
Sure.
Nonetheless, even at 2.5, that's still a strong showing on a holiday edition of a show.
It's a smart move. Putting a really solid episode of wrestling when they know that people are going to be done with their meals. They're going to be, done opening their gifts and all that kind of stuff. And then they flip on TV. It's like, everybody's been watching this football game. Put on a strong showing, not like I know this is pre-tape, but, don't put on no more Miracle on 34th Street matches.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Anyways.
Agreed.
You want to answer some questions?
Sure. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here on the Twitter. I'm just trying to do something. I don't even know if this is a question related to this, but he says, "Have you guys seen this?" And it's the Superstar Gaming series.
Oh, yeah.
On the WWE Network.
Yeah, I saw that. The Wrestle Dude says with Sean Spears kayfabe leaving AEW, it took him off the roster page.
And then he deleted his Twitter also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we could see him in Impact, possibly joining Eric Young? That'd be fun.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a distinct possibility that he'll join Impact. I prefer if he became part of Young Love. I feel like we need to reach out to Impact, make a serious effort to do that. Become real Impact aficionados. We have our Impact shirts ready to go for Tuesday. And talk to them about the booking of Eric Young, and let's see if we can get Young Love happening.
I like that. NJWP book a Brodie Lee memorial match. He says mine would see Dustin and Hangman join the Dark Order for the night to team with Silver and Reynolds, take on Kenny, the Young Bucks, and Cody. It has to take place at a Chili's.
Yes.
Or at least in the parking lot of a Chili's.
That's good. Winner gets all the Chili's money and 6 riding mowers.
And, all members of Team Brodie would be riding in on the lawnmower. So it would be Silver, Reynolds. Well, that'd be Uno, Grayson, Silver, and Reynolds.
Yeah,
I think that's the team Dark Order.
That's good.
And then they'd be taking on. I guess it would have to be the Young Bucks.
I would think that you'd want probably the Nightmare family, right? Like Cody was his biggest thing.
Cody, Dustin. I guess so. Cody and Dustin and
like QT.
Yeah, I suppose.
Whatever.
That's good.
What other lump is in the Nightmare family?
Yes. So of course Dark Order goes over in honor of Brodie Lee.
The turtle guy, Darby Allin.
The turtle guy.
Let's see here. A White Brownie asks, with all the accomplishments Asuka has done in a short span, could you see Io Shirai matching her? Or do you see her having a Kairi Sane booking problem? R.I.P. Brodie Lee. I don't know, man. I don't know. I wouldn't. I'll put it this way. I wouldn't necessarily. Oops, hold on. Oh my goodness, I'm a mess right now.
Oh no.
Hold on, sorry. Stupid thing. There we go. I wouldn't necessarily think that you have to equate the booking of Io Shirai going forward or on main roster with, necessarily another Japanese wrestler. I just, you never know. I mean, there's been plenty of really, really terrific in-ring talents who just haven't had the time of day on main roster, regardless of, what country they hail from. If it's a kind of situation where everybody knows she's one of the best and the crowd really, 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 really wants her, maybe she'll have a lackluster beginning on main roster if she ever, goes to main roster. and then the crowd turns it around for her the way they kind of did with Becky Lynch. You just never know. You never know how they're going to do it because the booking of main roster is so erratic and at times irrational.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Ezra Zealous. Over the Christmas break, I watched a bunch of old pay-per-views. I was curious what you guys think is the best example of when the main event match didn't go on last. Ezra says The Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18.
Great answer. Perfect answer.
That is probably the best answer, but there's probably been other shows where...
Well, I guess a case could be made for Rock Austin at 19.
Case could be made. Match, yeah.
Case could be made.
Yeah.
Although I kind of appreciate that they had what was essentially a Legends match, not main event, even though it's like the two biggest names. At the time, they focused on the two guys they were trying
to build around,
to build around Angle and Lesnar. So yeah.
The first Undertaker Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania, the one at 25, I think.
That's a good answer.
Dalen Dula, you've just been informed by your dogs that they can now speak.
Awesome. Oh, man, that makes me so happy.
They would like to pursue careers in pro wrestling. Knowing their particular interests and skills, what style of wrestling would they best be suited for, and what wrestlers and what style do you ask to train them? See, my dog's really old. She's 14. If she just decided that today was the day that she was going to say, hey, Larson, I want to get into pro wrestling. I'd be
she's like a DDP type then.
But like, dog, you're 14.
Yeah.
Like you don't like going out for walks anymore.
You're killing dreams, dude. You're killing dreams is what you're doing.
Well, I'm not killing dreams. I'm just saying you're old. You're not as physically fit as you used to be. You can barely hear now because you got bad ears. You should have thought of this 10 years ago, honestly. That's what I'll say to her.
So with Gypsy, obviously she would be another Brodie, a Bruiser Brodie type, because she's crazy. I mean, this is all in kayfabe, but as a shoot. So as a shoot, she's crazy too. Maybe like she'd be like a New Jack type.
All right.
I could see Gypsy being like a New Jack type, an FMW type.
Okay.
You know, some of those crazy FMW death matches.
All right.
Yeah, I could see that.
I guess if
she'd be, or maybe like a Vader, where people are like, "Oh, dude, I don't want to fight her." She's like, she's
too snug,
too stiff, too snug.
Too snug. I guess if Zoe were to be a wrestler, it'd be a technical wrestler.
No, listen, Tony B has it. She'd be like the Undertaker now.
Yeah,
she'd be the
cinematic
Undertaker.
Cinematic matches.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do something. Will WWE have a period where both Raw and SmackDown will have continuous good episodes?
No, it's too much to ask. It's too much to ask.
And kind of a connected question, related question. One more quick question from I'm just trying to do something. Will Raw be creatively motivated by SmackDown doing so well?
No. Oh, they are creative. No, they are creatively motivated. They try.
This is just what we get.
They try. This is simply what we get. You know, I don't think Vince McMahon isn't trying, but the problem is it's Vince McMahon trying. He's not stepping aside and letting younger, fresher, more creative minds take the reins.
Yes.
That's the problem.
That is the issue. Gareth says, could YouTuber amateur boxer Jake Paul be a draw on Raw? Ugh. Continues, not personally a fan, but he's a great trash talker with a huge following.
I mean, if you're talking strictly numbers, probably.
Probably, at least for a week.
Probably.
Do we want to see it? No.
Ugh. That question made me kind of physically ill.
Really?
Yeah. Ugh.
Justin Bobamba. Will Brodie Lee be the first inductee to AEW Hall of Fame, and will he be inducted posthumously, individually, or with the Wyatt family in the future? Wyatt family in the future, probably. I would not be surprised by that.
I am assuming with the Wyatt family.
Hugh Long Heavy cast wrestlers as characters.
Oh, not casting.
In Wonder Woman 84.
All right.
Charlotte as Diana Prince.
Okay. Who's Maxwell
or Rhea Ripley?
Lord?
Or Rhea Ripley.
Well, okay. So there is
Raquel
a member,
Gonzalez.
I'd say Raquel Gonzalez.
Or Sonya Deville.
No, you had it right with Raquel. She's very intimidating.
Right. Yeah.
Kristen Wiig's character, the cheetah. Doesn't like well, I know Carmella and I think Bianca has worn animal print before.
Carmella has, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd say Carmella's kind of got that right now, doesn't it? That's kind of her character right now. And like she's and then look, there is a person in the WWE Hall of Fame who clearly they were modeling Maxwell Lord after, and his name is President Donald Trump, and he's about to have some free time on his hands, so maybe he can do this.
Ugh. What about Steve Trevor? About Chris Pine?
Oh, another very charismatic actor who has done wrestling, Hugh Jackman. I mean, he showed up once and punched Dolph Ziggler. To me, that qualifies. And he's an extremely charismatic individual.
He is.
That was a cop-out answer. Big E is Steve Trevor.
There you go. Brilliant. Greg Morris, what does Minoru Suzuki fear? I think he might fear global warming, climate change, because at his anniversary show afterwards, he was around picking up trash.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So he cares about this earth.
Fears what we're doing to it.
Yes.
Ryan Mizushima has a booking question for the Dark Order now going forward with the sudden passing of Brodie Lee, who will take over as leader of the Dark Order. I think it clearly is going to be, it has to be John Silver. I think they should do that.
Yeah.
I think they could tell some really cool stories with that. It will be interesting to see how they approach that going forward. I have full faith that they're going to do something pretty cool.
Blake Elizondo, favorite Brodie Lee moments. What's next for the Dark Order? Here's a couple that come to my head. He had a really good ladder match against Dolph Ziggler, I believe, for the Intercontinental title at WWE. That was a really fun match.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite bits of the Bray Randy stuff involved Luke Harper. It really is a shame he was not in that title match at WrestleMania. That could have added so much.
His actual match with Randy Orton, I watched it this morning. It is a really terrific match. The crowd really wanted Luke to win, but of course they all lose their crap when they see an RKO happen.
Yeah, no.
So they cheered the finish of that, but it was a really, really well booked match. My favorite Brodie Lee moment clearly is the bit with Sue and John Silver. The fact that he was laughing on camera when she just threw the papers on the ground and
that was so good. That was so good.
That was such a joy to watch. I could watch that endlessly.
Him destroying Cody for that TNT title was a sight to behold.
It is. I mean, again, I don't want to throw shade at like his booking in WWE, but dude, could you imagine if they also told during that whole thing the story of a guy who was in a cult and decided to break off and be his own guy, tangentially with Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt, and make that a triple threat. He maybe they even have him go back to being Brodie Lee. Say this is my real name as part of that storyline. Again, missed opportunities. Oh
yeah.
I'm really happy he did end up in AEW though, so we could see the full extent of what he could do.
Totally. Jason the Cabbie. So am I the only one that noticed that this past Friday that the Sammys are just two gold-painted action figures glued to two soup cans painted black?
So we both knew the action figure part. I didn't realize the soup can part. I didn't think to look at the soup cans underneath it. That is pretty damn funny.
Anthony Tobias, who are your picks and dark horses for the men's and women's Royal Rumble?
Bailey is the clear favorite for me for the women's Rumble.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Dark horse, I mean, unless they're going to add somebody to Asuka versus Charlotte, which I don't think has to be the Rumble. I mean, that Charlotte literally was about to ask her for the match on Raw last week. So
I'll say I'll give you a dark horse for the women's match. Rhea Ripley.
Okay,
especially
that's
if she loses next week on NXT against Raquel Gonzalez in that last woman standing match. What else is there for her to really do in NXT? Maybe they'll finally go around to finishing whatever story they might have had in mind in NXT for her and Charlotte on the main roster, which of course isn't going to happen, but one could hope.
I mean, I'll say, people like returns. Sonya Deville is a dark horse for me, maybe.
Yeah.
Men's probably going to be Goldberg. My dark horse pick is Brock Lesnar because I just picked him up in the Going in Raw Cup draft.
I'll say
and you picked up Goldberg, you bastard.
Yeah, I'll say my dark horse for that will be Kevin Owens. Why not? Maybe the here's a really good story we can tell. Maybe we should actually do it for once. Nick Kyle asks, was your favorite Brodie Lee or Luke Harper match? I'll say that one against Dolph, that ladder match. That was so damn good.
Probably.
Although there's the Wyatt Family Shield 6-man tag match elimination chamber.
Dude, I'm gonna go with the very last match we saw him in. I'm gonna go with the dog collar match. I'll say that. Either that
good.
or when he squashed Cody, because it's always fun to see Cody lose.
He got annihilated.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
John Roush, Big E seemed tore up more than most about Brodie Lee passing. How would you like to see Big E pay tribute to him in the ring if he chooses to do so?
I can't get the vision in my head out of Big E wearing some Luke Harper type gear, a dirty shirt, and some raggedy jeans. I don't know, man. I'm sure he'll do something really cool because, yeah, obviously he was pretty close.
Yeah. Michael McFarland, do you think Hangman will join the Dark Order?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the original what the plan was. I kind of felt like it was going to be a Brodie Hangman thing. I mean, you know, I think it's a possibility. It seems like they're taking the scenic route with Hangman Page, so I think it's a possibility for him to be a bit of a journeyman in AEW. Let's see here. This is a cool question. It'll take some trying to remember stuff from Panda Police Club. In the midst of the 3-year-long storyline that was the Authority, I got to watch that Brian Zane video. Yeah, 3 years, good Lord. He says, we were blessed with Brodie Lee holding the IC championship. What were some other bright spots in the middle of an otherwise lackluster and god-awful feud? So I know this is technically before his reign of terror, but that whole period of time when Triple H first had that championship and him and Stephanie were a thing, when Jericho won that title off him for that brief moment, you know, I mean, Triple H, for me, he sort of oscillated between go away heat and just really good heel heat. You know, sometimes I was like, good Lord, I love this guy, but man, they need to mix it up a little bit. It's too much. Especially because back then he wasn't a terrifically good promo. He would stumble a lot. But when Jericho won that championship and then Triple H had it reversed, I thought that was actually a really clever little bit, and it was a great way to test out just how over Jericho was, because that place erupted.
Yeah, that's good. All this, when they were doing that thing between Roman and Sheamus, and for 2 weeks they like actually booked Roman correctly after he like beat the hell out of Triple H and then Superman punched Vince.
Yeah. For
2 weeks it seemed like they knew what they were doing, and then he got that title back. Then he took like a backseat to Dean Ambrose for like a month and a half.
Yeah, that's good. During Jinder's 6-month reign, the rise of the Singh brothers, I thought was actually pretty fun. I liked how they were all packaged together.
Yeah,
it was such a I don't know, Jinder was doing some pretty fun work there. It's just a shame that they didn't build him that way. They had him win the title and then they built him.
They tried to build him up.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. We'll hang out for a little bit longer on the Twitch. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be live later on tonight for our Raw recap. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Help support Going In Raw today by becoming a Friendo Club TV member. You'll get access to new bonus episodes every week, including Friendo Club Arcade, Live Power Rank, Vintage 10 for the Wins, and Ask Steven Larson. Get access to Friendo Club TV today by becoming a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/Steven Larson, by throwing us a sub at twitch.tv/Steven Larson, or by clicking join at youtube.com/Steve and Larson.